So what do you think we'll see in the next match then? We have both teams who have just played, both teams who have just won, sorry, this morning will be playing off now. So that is Socket Close and Coupbois. So both matches here, the winning teams went for a more kitey setup. Do you think we'll see two kitey setups coming in, or do you think they'll adjust their meta slightly and try and out-meta each other and bring a brawling setup? What do you expect we'll see here?
The most likely thing is that one team will try and out-execute with the kiting comp, and the other will bring some form of hard tackle comp to try and win against the expected meta, basically. So one's going to try and counter meta, and the other's going to try and out-execute. Because you cannot hard counter a kiting setup. You have to outplay it. So it's going to come down to a lot of piloting skill here.
Yeah, for sure. We saw a couple matches yesterday that was kiting versus kiting. Both teams coming in at maximum range and just spending their time, first minute or two, skirting around, trying to position their team better than the other team can position theirs before plunging in for the kill and just trying to outplay the other team in just pure piloting skill.
Those kind of fights end up being less about taking range and more about using the spears of hard tackle that your fleet still has to split up the enemy fleet. If you can get a nice wall of people that they can't fly past, you can then turn on one guy, pull together on him, kill him, and once that's done, you've basically won the match. So there is no way for them to go from there unless you completely mess up.
Yeah, we did see yesterday, with only 2 Brutixes left, one team managed to use a single Brutix to chase down a Gila, while the other Brutix successfully screened off a Gila, a Caracal, and a Bifrost, I believe. He successfully kept them away, while his Brutix friend was able to work down that other Gila all by himself. So that was some very good piloting from those two there.
True hero.
Yeah, I mean, if you can screen 3 cruisers, or rather 2 cruisers and a destroyer with a battle cruiser, you're doing a really good job.
And since it is going to be a quick turnaround, one of these teams having back-to-back matches, we'll go ahead and go to Twitch again and see what comments or questions we have there.
Yeah, make sure to throw in questions in the chat. We would love to answer them, especially about the format.
Yeah, Rip Drones can only be used by a Logi ship.
Oh, okay. Well,
I think that's.
But they are allowed to use Tech 2 Rep drones, I believe.
Yeah, Tech 2 ones are really good, especially when you have like the Logi ship bonuses for some of them. I think only 2 of them have it for T2. But yeah, so that's, I think, a unique rule to this, because in the past, like for other tournaments, a lot of times anyone can bring rep drones. So it kind of gives non-Logi setups a little bit of buffer. Instead, this allows, I think, any ECM drones are allowed by any ship. So whether they're damp drones or ECM drones or E-War drones, I guess, then that's actually allowed.
So definitely this setup and this meta definitely favor use of EC drones and a counter for EC drones and damage drones over any other type, just because the way the rules are structured. EC drones obviously being the more powerful form of the E-War drones that are used both in AT and in regular PvP.
ECM, of course, pretty much universally hated by everyone, but also very, very key, and especially if you can jam. Let's say you bring 2 battle cruisers and then 3 small ships. If you manage to jam 1 battle cruiser, that's potentially half the DPS of the other team removed for 20 seconds while you focus down the other one, and that's a big, big deal.
A lot of people
Absolutely.
forget that ECM drones can easily be countered too by just having a smart bomb. Like a lot
Right,
of
they have one of the weakest hulls of any drone, so they really are easy to. But you have to sacrifice either, when you're seeing these cruiser and battle cruiser setups, you're sacrificing a newt or possibly even a link to fit that smart bomb. So it's an easy solution, but it's not one that you should take lightly.
No, and of course the good teams, they will have that smart bomb on one of their larger ships, and if their smaller ships are getting hounded by either EC drones or even EWAR drones, then they can fly in next to their heavier ships with the smart bombs, have them smart bombed off for them, and then get back out into the fight again.
The most interesting thing about that is also that a larger ship will actually have a bigger range of smart bomb effect. The smart bombs do not work from the center of your ship model, they work from the edge of your ship's sphere of bumping, basically. So a bigger ship will actually present closer to 7 or 8 km of depth to drones around it, which is why we typically see Typhoon Fleet issues used, Macarials used in that smart bombing role. Obviously, that doesn't apply to this tournament, but things like the Harbinger or the Cinnable, which have a surprisingly big model for the ships that they are, will be able to make even better use of that effect.
Of course, as Nicola says, the decision to take that smart bomb over another module that could be perhaps more useful in 75 to 80% of your fights is a potentially risky one, and it really relies on understanding the meta and maybe understanding what your opponent is likely to bring.
Yeah. The thing is, in the current balancing state of the game, where there are so many ships just have a drone bay, it's generally useful to bring at least one in a composition. However, it's also generally good to bring a newt in every one of your compositions. So it ends up just being a terrible balancing act that makes ships that have multiple utility highs a lot more valuable in this kind of smaller gang format than they would be on TQ. Which means we get to see much more interesting ships, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the interesting things about the Eventy Collides tournaments that are running just now is they have pre-fit ships. So there's a selection of ships with fittings that you are not allowed to change. You can change the ammo, the drones, etc., but the actual fits themselves are locked. So that means that if someone brings a ship that you know has a smart bomb, you can play around that, or vice versa. You can choose just to ignore that. And knowing that in advance can sometimes be it could change the entire perspective of the match. Whereas normally maybe you send your drones in and then suddenly it gets smart bombed off. Now you have to be more careful, and you know in advance that that could happen.
Right. One of the good things is, though, except for the final two matches, there will be no ban. So at least if you find a theory or a comp that works, you are not required to bring a second one until those last couple matches. You might have to replace one or two ships. So definitely some hard theory crafting, but at least it'll pay off if you find the right setup to bring.
Yeah, and with tournaments like this, because they are player run, and I would say it's a lot less stressful for the players, especially because for like the Alliance tournament and stuff like that, you usually have to submit plex, and then the rules are usually super complex. These rules seem pretty straightforward. It's not too complicated. I don't think you guys have like anything special. Like there's no battleships, no special ships, so people are a lot more limited, which I think makes for like more entertaining fights, because obviously people just want to have fun and they just bring whatever that they're good at, instead of like trying to out theory craft the enemy teams. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe everyone's super hardcore in this. I don't know.
I think what those slightly easier rules do is lower the barrier of entry for pilots to get involved in the competitive EVE esport environment. The Alliance tournament has, as you said, a very large barrier for entry, plex, complicated rules, established teams. It can be very, very daunting for newer players who want to have a go at this kind of stuff but just can't really do it. You've got these grassroots tournaments run by people like RVB and Spectre Fleet that enable those people to get into a ship, get into a team, and fly in a competitive environment and really practice it and just see what it's like to be competitive without having to front all those plex and spend all that time theory crafting to compete with some of the higher tier teams.
Obviously, we've also got the lower player count, which is of huge benefit to small groups who might not simply be able to guarantee that they can have 10 or 12 pilots, as it was in previous years, online for the tournament.
Exactly, and if you're going to field a team of 10 people for the Alliance tournament, realistically you need probably about 20 people willing to participate, because you have to have practice, you have to have people who are willing to sub in. Everyone might not be available every single week, so you have to have those reserves. With 5-on-5, then you could do it quite easily with 7 or 8, and if you wanted to get the full internal practice, then get 10. And that's a lot easier than 20 people. The number of corps with 10 people is probably vastly more than the number with 20.
All right, and it looks like we have one team on grid and the other one arriving shortly. So let's go ahead and go over what what socket closed and Coupbois have brought.
It looks like we're seeing a run back from the Coupbois with the same Orthrus setup, whereas Agony, or is this Make 'Em All Great again?
No, this is socket closed, comprised of Agony Empire pilots.
They have brought a full Amar setup, bringing a tear to my Amar-loving eye here with double Omen, double Mala, and Harbinger, relying on that huge buffer tank here to try and coast their way to victory. They've walked in at 0, and this is going to be very, very interesting. I wonder if those Omens are fit as hard tackle, because if they are, they might be able to take an angled approach, trap one of those Orthuses, and if they manage to do that, the fight will probably be over.
Sure, this is both teams bringing essentially what they brought in their previous matches today. They're not going to try and outmeta each other. They're just like, well, this worked before, it must work again, and they're bringing exactly those ships. In fact, I think the Socket Close guys have brought literally the same ships, because some of them actually have some damage still applied from the previous fight. They don't need to repair, they're going all out.
I find it interesting too, because the first 2 matches we had, these teams were the winners, and so then they bring the same setup, so we're going to see really like which setup I guess is the more dominating one.
Yeah, and that can sometimes be dangerous, because sometimes you win with a setup and you have to look at it critically and say, did we win because the setup was good and our piloting was good, or did we win because the other team, their piloting wasn't good? Like, you can be easily lulled into a false sense of security that you have a good doctrine and a good fleet, and then suddenly when a competent team steps up, you get stomped.
Yeah.
You can also be lulled into a false sense of failure when you fail on the same token. Is it execution, or was it your composition banned from the get-go?
And we've got 10 seconds here before the fight starts, so we're going to get ready to see what they do. Boosts up here from the Harbinger, and it looks like there's info boosts, if I'm not mistaken. So they might be bringing some heavy evil here.
We see damage drones dropping once again.
Coupbois immediately running away.
The Maulus of
and the Maulus taking heavy damage.
Huge damage. Running towards the edge of the arena here as he desperately tries to live. The Omen of Reverend being the primary from the other team, and he's taking he's taking a fair bit of damage.
Yeah, that Maulus now crossing over the boundary and having to start turning around as that huge flight of warrior drones now, as he slows down, just engulf him.
Ooh.
That was a bad move because of him slowing down. Now he's like swarmed, and he has to pick up speed to get away from them, or he's just gonna die.
The question,
looks like he is.
And the flycatcher of Alar is taking huge damage as well. The huge amounts of tracking that the obviously the beams and pulsers get on the Amar side, helping them immensely to apply damage to such a small target.
Yeah, that Maulus again, just surrounded by those drones. He's slowed right down once again. Perhaps he's burned out his micro warp drive, because he is only going 500
and
MS.
The Omen down. The Omen is down though, but they have traded it for half damage on both of these flycatchers and a nearly dead Maulus. And an interesting call here from the Coupbois team as they focus down the Mala. The Mala obviously known for its incredibly huge tank.
Yeah, exactly, but that Omen is a lot further away from them than the rest of these teams, so they're going to have to pretty much shoot what they can hit. In this case, it seems to be the Mauler.
Seems like he's using his the optimal range bonus that the Omen gets to his advantage here. Both the Omen and the Mala are turning back in now that they're focused on the Mala. They have committed to him, so they're going to be able to move in and wreak havoc. And as I say that, the Cornac in the flycatcher going into armor, about to go down.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that these Arthurises, maybe they're on reload, because we haven't seen any damage being applied to that Mauler for quite a substantial amount of time. So it's
Looks
quite
like it.
possible that anytime soon we're going to see a huge amount of damage. And as I say
Oh,
that, suddenly the Omen starts taking a vast amount of damage. The Omen of Kiakti just taking a huge amount of damage.
Bat strayed a little too close there to the Omen, to the Amar fleet in half shields already. We know that he has a booster from last fight, but the real question is he going to be able to get out, get enough range to make that matter?
Yeah,
The
this
damage.
flycatcher is like right in the middle of those Amar ships. He is not in a good situation. He has a swarm of drones on him as well.
Yeah, it looks like the Amarian team is just putting their guns on bigger ships and letting their drones tear through the support, as there is no rep power from the Coupbois team, and that is a great decision. That lets them put their guns on what does the most damage, and that's just letting them, split it up properly.
Yep, that flycatcher just suddenly caught up by a huge cloud of drones there. He is into very low structure and he's going to die very, very shortly. Now that Omen on the other side, he is also about to hit structure, so we probably will see a trade here, flycatcher for Omen.
Yeah.
For the Orthruses, I think would be a good trade. However, they are still down on points, or not points, ships. So, I mean, obviously losing their last support, because I believe these flycatchers are allowing them to
The
boost.
Omen is incredibly far away though. There's no way that the he's trying to bait the Orthros here to go past the rest of his fleet so that they can get more damage onto him, to finish him off. And if they don't do that, then he's going to be able to just burn away and then come back in later and tickle around the edge of their ranges, and it's working marvelously. You can see here Cog taking huge chunks of damage, having to burn boost cycles as he tries to catch up to Kekate.
Yeah, he has actually started regenerating shields in that Omen, so he's managed to just stay at range. He is going very slow, so perhaps, again, another person who's burned out the prop mod. We're seeing maybe some poor heat management here. He might need that prop mod again later on,
and
if he has indeed burned out.
And damage being applied to Ict, as we see Cog start to bleed armor. He's obviously going to have limited cycles here, and whilst he won't be tackled, so he might be able to get away and reload, it's not going to help his friend in that, because the Amar team I believe currently has the points advantage.
Yeah, I do believe so. What the Orthros
Yes,
really need to do is try and get round and just remove this Omen, because that is quite a substantial amount of DPS once he gets back into range again, and he doesn't have much EHP left, just with only just over half structure and a little bit of shield. So if they can get in, apply some volleys to that Omen and remove that, then they're going to be a bit more even ground.
Yeah,
Cog
which actually both of them are flirting with the boundary, so both of them are getting the warning jam, so they won't even be able to apply all their DPS very well for this next few seconds.
Ooh, and as I said, that interesting choice here is Bat is being damaged now. That he has not used any of his cycles previously. Is he trying to bait them into shooting him so Cog gets a chance to reload? If so, that's incredibly interesting decision.
It could be. I mean, it looked like he just kind of snuck by all the Amar ships, like while they were distracted with Cog. It looked like they got pretty close.
And the Omen now taking damage. He is, he's gone. So that's exactly what they've done. Now they've got 2 Maulers and a Harbinger, so probably no tackle whatsoever, and there's no way a Mauler can keep up with an Orthrus. So now it's really down to piloting. Can these 2 Orthruses survive long enough, trading reload and rep cycles while also applying damage to this Mauler to try and kill that?
But now we're in the interesting conundrum of having 3 pilots versus 2, and yet they are equal in points. So each of the Orthrus being worth 11 points, the Harbinger 12, and then each of the Maulers 5. We have a 22-point tie until they're able to take care of one of this Maulers, or until that Amar team is able to reach out and kill one of these Orthruses.
If we look down there at the bottom of the arena, we can see the Harbinger and the damaged Mala catching up to Cog still. They're close enough to start applying damage to him. I can't help but wonder how many cycles he has left, and if it's going to be enough for him to survive.
He is starting to boost again. Now, he's obviously managed to reload in the last little while, but the real key question is how many charges does he have left? Because we've seen him boost quite a significant amount of times now. He's mitigated a lot of damage with that ASB, but the fact is, once it runs out of charges, he's dead.
Yeah, they're swooping in here. They're both playing like they obviously don't have to worry about any regen. They're not being forced into an engagement by any sort of regen. All they've got to do is come in, apply a bit of damage, and get out before the enemy team notices. But the real question is, are they going to be able to do it? We know that Agony Empire have some great pilots on board, but so do Test. And it looks like they're trying to use they're trying to track them. They're trying to split up a little bit. The other Mala, the undamaged one, going in front of where the other the other Orthrus is burning towards, in the hopes of catching him off and forcing him to burn directly into his guns, so he can't mitigate any damage.
Yeah, that
And
Mauler
as I say
just
this,
taking.
Cog, I believe, might have run out of charges. He's not boosting. He might not be able to. Is he going to go down before Ictovian in the Mala, the one who's applying the most damage to him, goes down? Doesn't look like it here. It's neck
Oh,
and neck,
no!
and Cog
And then the
goes
Arthurus
down.
is down, and so is the Mauler. So now we have single Arthurus versus a low shield Mauler and a full health Harbinger. I
Yeah,
do
and
believe
no.
that means that Socket Close are now winning on points.
Absolutely. That's 17 to 11 now. So unless this Orthrus is not only able to kite, but take care of the smaller
And how many points
That's
are
the
Type 1
match.
battle cruisers worth?
12. 12.
And that Mala as well. He's interesting choice. He's going for the Harbinger, which is going to have even more tank than the Mala, unless it's fit incredibly weirdly. And he only has two more charges in his one more charge in his XLASB, if I counted them correctly. Might not have. But he is flirting with death here. He needs to get out and he needs to reload before he goes back in, because it's going to take 2 clips for him to kill the Harbinger or the Mauler here. Oh, and I'm reading that the Orthrus absolutely has to kill the Harbinger to win. How much time is left on this match, I wonder? 3 minutes, apparently.
It's not down to 2 minutes.
Jesus.
Yeah,
This is
so I
going to be
really
incredible.
don't think this
Almost.
Arthurus, unless he commits full bore and just comes barreling in to just get as many of his cycles off on that Harbinger, then there's not really any way he's going to be able to do this, I don't think, in the time he has remaining. If he does, that'll be some spectacular piloting from BAP in the Arthurus.
This has been an incredibly close match here. One for the highlight reel. The Amar team using their ships to split up and surgically take apart this Orthrus comp, but being willing to trade ships away to do it. Trading away those T1 cruisers for important parts of the enemy composition.
It's interesting too, because it seems like this Harbinger and Mauler know that they've won and they're just sitting there waiting for this Orthrus to come in,
If you
because
look,
they know they have the advantage.
They do have 30 kilometers between them, ensuring that if either.
If
No
the
matter
Arthurus
what-
comes in, one of them will be able to track.
Yeah, basically. That's what I was. You knew what I was thinking.
I knew what you were saying, Jin.
Thanks, boy. You got my back. And as I say, that BAP comes in. He should have had time to reload his XLSD.
Less than 30 seconds to go, so he is just committing full force trying to burn down that Harbinger. But the Harbinger now boosting as well. And that is the match that has gone to time. So BAP surviving in his Arthurus. He's done a fantastic job, I think, surviving, and the second Arthurus as well, doing a great job to make it as close as it was. But the winners of this one are Socket Closed.
An incredible display there. Really, really interesting.
Yeah, definitely one of the best matches we've seen, not just today, but yesterday as well, I think.